The stellar vagrant drifted through the Kashari system like a metal seed pod carried on solar winds. Inside its cramped galley, Mira stood before a salvaged heating unit, spatula in hand, contemplating what the rest of the galaxy would surely consider culinary terrorism. "You're doing it again," came a rumbling voice from the doorway. Myra glanced over her shoulder at Rockin, the ship's Kashari navigator. He filled the entire doorway with his bulk 7 feet of rust-colored fur, retractable claws, and what humans had nicknamed murder mittens. His species looked like someone had crossbred a bear with a tiger and given it enough intelligence to calculate quantum jumps. Doing what? Myra asked innocently, turning back to her pan. "Making food." Rockin's triangular ears flattened against his skull. "The smell is ... everywhere. It's called sodding garlic. It's a foundational technique in human cuisine. It's chemical warfare." Myra grinned. Rockin had been complaining about human cooking ever since she'd joined the crew 3 months ago. The Kashari were obligate carnivores who ate their meat raw, preferably still warm from the kill. The concept of applying heat to food struck them as somewhere between suspicious and insane. "You don't have to eat it," Myra said, adding tomatoes to the pan. They sizzled satisfyingly. Thank the First Pride for that mercy. But Rockin didn't leave. He never did. He stood in the doorway, massive arms crossed, watching with the kind of horrified fascination usually reserved for natural disasters. Myra had learned this was how Kashari showed affection, by enduring the incomprehensible habits of their packmates. The real problem started when the cubs showed up. Myra had just finished plating her pasta, a miracle of improvisation involving 3 different space station markets and 1 probably expired jar of pesto, when she heard the scrabbling of claws on metal flooring. 2 small shapes burst into the galley. Tika and Raz were Rockin's younger siblings, newly weaned and absolutely fearless in the way that baby predators often were. They'd been allowed on the ship for 1 rotation, while their parents attended a diplomatic function on Kashyyyk Prime. In the 48 hours since boarding, they'd somehow managed to get into the engine room, the weapons locker, and Mira's private stash of chocolate. "Human Myra," Tika chirped, her cub-spotted fur bristling with excitement. "You're making the smelly thing again." "It's called cooking," Myra corrected gently. "Can we see?" Ras was already trying to climb the counter, his little claws scratching for purchase. "No," Rockin said firmly, stepping into the galley. "Myra's food is not for cubs." "Why not?" Tika's golden eyes went wide. "Is it poisonous? To Kashari metabolism?" "Probably," Rockin muttered. "But why does it smell like that?" Raz's little nose twitched. "It's not like meat smell. It's interesting." And there it was. That word, interesting. In the 3 months Mira had known the Kashari, she'd learned they used interesting the way humans might say, "I'm intrigued against my better judgment." "The smell comes from chemical reactions," Myra explained, settling into teaching mode. "When you heat certain compounds, they break down and recombine. Garlic contains sulfur compounds. Tomatoes have glutamates. Combined with heat and fat, they create new flavors." Both cubs stared at her with the kind of rapt attention usually reserved for hunting lessons. "What's flavor?" Tika asked. Myra blinked. Of course. Kashari didn't really have cuisine. They had prey and not prey. Everything else was novelty. "Flavor is ... double quotes," she paused. "It's like different types of good. Sweet, salty, sour, bitter, umami. Can we taste?" Raz was now inches from her plate. "Absolutely not," Rockin growled. "But we're researchers," Tika protested. "We need to understand alien species." "You're cubs. You need to listen to your elders. Please, human Myra." Both cubs turned their oversized eyes on her, and Mira felt her resolve crumbling like week old crackers. "Just a tiny taste," she heard herself saying. "The pasta only. Not the garlic bread. That might actually be too much for your systems." Rockin made a sound like a landslide, having regrets. Myra twirled a single strand of pasta onto her fork and held it out. Raz approached it the way one might approach a live bomb, sniffed extensively, then carefully, so carefully took it between his tiny fangs. The galley fell silent. Raz chewed. His eyes widened. His ears pricked straight up. He swallowed. It's warm, and the texture is strange. Soft, but with structure. And the taste is, he paused, struggling with vocabulary clearly insufficient for the moment. Complicated. Complicated how? Tikka demanded. Like prey that fought back, but in your mouth, in a good way. I want some. Before Rockin could intervene, Myra had offered another fork. Tikka's reaction was even more dramatic. She ate the pasta, sat completely still for 3 seconds, then began vibrating with excitement. Uncle Rockin, you have to try this. I do not have to do anything except watch you two get sick later. We declare ourselves official taste testers, Raz announced, puffing out his chest. For human food safety purposes. For research, Tikka added. Absolutely not, Rockin began. But the cubs were already planning. Myra could see it in their eyes. That predatory focus shifting from hunting prey to hunting new experiences. She'd accidentally created food critics. Furry, fanged, incredibly earnest food critics. Over the next hour, Rockin watched in horror as Mira prepared samples of different human foods, carefully portioned for cub-sized metabolisms. The cubs approached each dish with scientific solemnity, debating flavors with vocabulary they invented on the spot. This one has sneaky heat, Raz declared of the mild curry. The white sauce is aggressive in texture but passive in taste, Tikka observed of the Alfredo. Rockin eventually slumped against the wall, defeated. You've corrupted them. I've educated them, Myra corrected, grinning. They're supposed to be apex predators. They still are. They're just apex predators with refined palates now. By the time the cubs' parents arrived to collect them, Tikka and Raz had filled an entire datapad with tasting notes and declared their intention to write a comparative xenocuisine thesis. As the stellar vagrant pulled away from the station, Rockin found Mira back in the galley, already preparing dinner. You know they're going to tell every cub in their den about this, he said. Good. You're going to start a revolution. Even better, Rockin sighed. Then very quietly asked, Is there any of that pasta left? Myra's grin could have powered the ship's engines. Pull up a chair, navigator. Let me tell you about garlic bread.